Hey guys, BrightlingSource.com here, and today the watch I'm going to be reviewing is the Omega Ploprof. Pretty iconic watch. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with it, or at least have seen it around. The original design is from Omega. The original design is from Omega, but from 1971. Roughly 1970-71 is when it came out. Excuse me. And this is the reissue of the watch that they released in 2009. So this let's talk a little bit about the original. So the original was I think developed in the 60s by Jacques Cousteau and Comex, which is a French company that specializes in engineering of deep sea diving and things like that. They worked with Omega to develop the original Ploprof 600, which was good to 600 meters of depth, and at that time that was quite impressive. So the watch was released for, I think, about 9 years, between 1970 and 1979, and then they discontinued it after that. But this new model here stays quite true to the design of the Ploprof 600, which you quite often see actually being sold in the secondary market for very much the same prices as one of these new issue models. And they look very similar. It's kind of interesting that the vintage ones would command the same price. Looking at the cost of the original watches, it was around 700 or 800 Swiss francs at the time in the 70s. So they've gone up considerably since then. I think these are somewhere in the $10,000 range now in US dollars. I think maybe 9,000, something like that. So this one is the current model, which is the Ploprof 1200. Depth, the water resistance is measured to 1200 meters on this one, and the case measures 55 meters horizontally here, and 48 millimeters this way. So it sounds like it's a really large watch, but it actually does not wear ridiculously large. I would say that it wears very similar to, say, a 44 millimeter Panerai. Maybe a little bit wider feeling, but the height of the watch is actually not that high, not that great. So it feels pretty solid on the wrist. It doesn't feel like this giant thing that's just protruding out like some watches. So quite wearable. This one features what they call the shark-proof bracelet, which is just, I guess, a mesh bracelet. I guess shark-proof suits back in the day used to be made of mesh like this, so they call it shark-proof. Let's see here. What should we start on? Let's talk about I guess the case design and sort of the unique things that make the Ploprof the Ploprof. And just so you guys are wondering, Ploprof actually stands for Plongeur Professionnel, which is French for professional diver. So it's basically, it was designed by a French team. Of course, Jacques Cousteau and Comex are both French companies. So that was the nickname they gave it, and it kind of stuck, I guess. And that's why we end up with the name Ploprof. Let's zoom in here so you can take a better look. So this is the white dial version. The black dial version is a little bit less bright, obviously. This one has matching white sapphire bezel and a matching white dial. The bezel on this one is interesting because it actually glows. I'm going to try and get a shot here of getting it glow. I'm going to charge it up with a flashlight and turn off the light, see if I can show you how it glows. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Doesn't show up too well, but gives you an idea. So the entire bezel glows on this one, which is kind of a neat feature. And you don't get that with the black one. The black one just has the numbers glowing. So it's a sapphire bezel, which is actually flat with the sapphire crystal. So it's actually one sort of expansive sapphire that's in line with each other, so they're flush. You can feel where the separation is, but they do sit flush, which is kind of neat. And the bezel itself is just beautifully crafted. It's one of the nicest bezels out there. Just that angle, the alternating sandblasted with polished finish on it. It's really nice. Let's see. Let's talk about the rest of the case now. A lot of people, I guess, you know, when I was wondering what this was here. So you can't actually turn the bezel on this watch. This is a sort of a bezel release. So once you push this down, you can turn the bezel in either direction. You know, you're not restricted to one direction or another, I guess, because you can't accidentally turn the bezel. So they allow you to turn it either direction. So that's sort of a bezel lock. Push it down, just turn it. It's difficult to do with one hand. When it's on your wrist, you kind of go like this, and you kind of like turn it like that. But it is doable, but difficult. The other thing is the crown. When you first look at it, it's not apparent how you release this crown guard in order to adjust the time on the watch. Well, it's actually quite simple. You just turn the crown, and it goes out with the crown. It actually is part of it. So it pops out, and now you can adjust the crown as you normally would. Pull out, pull in. So this watch, I just will talk about the movement before we talk about the clasp here, since I got the crown out. The movement is the Workhouse 8500 coaxial movement from Omega, which is their in-house coaxial movement that they've developed and pretty much use in all of their, I won't say entry level, but all of their sort of basic watches that use the in-house movements. It's got the the coaxial movement, the free sprung balance. It's got 60-hour power reserve, 2 barrels, and also the other notable features how dates get changed on this watch. So it doesn't use a typical date change mechanism. It uses a an hour switch. So when you're in the second crown position, or first second, anyways, the what normally would be the sort of the date change position, instead of that you just turn it by the hour, so you can move it forward or backwards, right, to move one way or another. So it takes a little bit longer to change the date on these, but it's the way the movement was designed. It probably allows them to easily make it a GMT movement as well without changing anything. And yeah, so let's get this back in. Just not sure which direction I'm in. These crowns are on the wrong side. Got to put it on the right side. Then I remember which direction to screw it in. There we go. So it's screwed back in, nice and tight. Good to go. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the rest of the watch here. So here's the back of the watch. I want you to see that. It's a very nice case back. It's a little bit more detailed than your usual Seamaster cases. You see the Omega thing there, the anti-faking thing, which doesn't really work because all the fakes have it anyway now. Tells you the caliber, coaxial escapement, 1200 meters, yada yada yada. Very nice case back. It's quite comfortable too. Got a little bit of a grip on it, I guess, to sit on your wrist a bit better. And let's take a look at the case on this one. So it's available on a rubber strap, which also fits into this clasp, this machine stainless steel clasp. So you can have the mesh part removed and insert rubber on both sides of it. Let's zoom out a bit here. And or you can just use either way you're using this clasp here. It's only the band parts that get changed out. So I also have the orange rubber, which I find a little bit too bright. But this one here, it's got the push here, so you can adjust the micro adjustments here, right off here. You can see that. And then you can also do a diver extension. So slides in, you can push, slide it in. Diver extension still works, of course, no matter where you are. But actually you gotta pop it out first because it okay. So yeah, just put it on again. You get a good look at the watch on the wrist. So I hope you guys like this review of the Omega Seamaster Ploprof 1200. Have a good one, guys.